power, control, authority. For years, audiences watch her command courtrooms and boardrooms on screen, delivering sharp words and sharper decisions. She built a reputation portraying characters who could read a room, dominate a negotiation, and never be caught off guard. But one evening in Los Angeles, far from the cameras and scripted victories, that sense of control was shattered. The target was not a corporation, not a rival lawyer, not a fictional enemy. The target was her home, and the crime was very real. On a calm evening in a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, burglars struck the residence of Suits star Gina Torres. They did not arrive loudly. They did not create chaos in the streets. They moved with purpose, entered quickly, and left with valuables worth more than $200,000. Jewelry, cash, personal property, gone in a short window of time. No dramatic confrontation, no warning, just a silent breach that turned a private space into a crime scene. Crimes like this carry a strange weight. When a public figure becomes the victim, people often react with surprise, sometimes even disbelief. There's a common assumption that fame builds protection, that visibility brings security, that wealth creates distance from danger. But reality does not follow celebrity status. Criminals do not pause for film credits or television awards. A house is still a house. A window is still a window. An opportunity, when spotted, can be exploited. What makes this case gripping is not just the dollar value of what was taken. It is the contrast. A woman known for portraying strength and strategic awareness becomes the subject of a carefully timed intrusion. A performer associated with power faces a moment of vulnerability away from the spotlight. The story is not about a character. It is about a real person, a real property, and a real investigation that begins the moment the intruders disappear into the night. If you're drawn to true crime stories told with clarity, depth, and respect for the facts, this is exactly what we do here. Follow the channel, subscribe to Real Crime Saga, and stay with me through this full breakdown, because every detail in this case adds another layer to how and why it happened. To understand how this burglary unfolded, we need to step back and look at the setting, the person at the center of it, and the pattern of crimes that have increasingly targeted high-value homes across Los Angeles. Because this was not random noise in the dark. It was a deliberate act, carried out in a specific way, at a specific time. And like most crimes that appear simple on the surface, the deeper you look, the more calculated it begins to feel. Let us begin with the woman whose home became the focus of this investigation, and why her public image makes this case even more striking. To understand why this case captured so much attention, we need to begin with the person at the center of it. Gina Torres is not simply another television actress with a recognizable face. She is widely regarded as a commanding screen presence, known for portraying intelligent, composed, and formidable characters. Over the years, she built a reputation for roles that project authority and emotional control, which makes the violation of her private home feel especially jarring to the public imagination. Many viewers know her best from the legal drama Suits, where she played Jessica Pearson, a named partner at a powerful law firm. Her character was written as disciplined, strategic, and unshakable under pressure. She did not raise her voice often, but when she spoke, people listened. The performance left a strong cultural impression. Even years after her main run on the series, the character remains one of the most respected figures in modern legal drama television. For many fans, Jessica Pearson represents composure under fire, leadership without panic, and strength without noise. But her career stretches well beyond a single role. Gina Torres has appeared across multiple major television series and film projects, often cast in parts that require presence and gravity. She has portrayed leaders, decision-makers, and morally complex figures. Casting directors frequently place her in roles where credibility matters, where the character must feel grounded and powerful. That consistency has shaped how audiences perceive her, not just as an entertainer, but as a symbol of competence and control. Public image can be deceptive in one important way. Viewers often merge the character with the person. When someone repeatedly plays strong figures, people subconsciously assume strength follows them everywhere, even into their personal life. But acting is performance, not protection. Scripted authority does not prevent real-world vulnerability. The same person who appears unbreakable on screen still locks doors, still relies on neighborhood safety, still trusts that home is secure. That is what makes crimes involving public figures so unsettling. They collapse the distance between celebrity and ordinary risk. They remind the audience that fame does not create an invisible shield. A burglar does not abandon a plan because the homeowner is well known. In some cases, recognition can even increase risk because criminals may assume higher value targets lie inside. There is also another layer to consider. Celebrities often maintain demanding schedules. Travel, filming, events, and professional obligations can create predictable windows of absence. A house that appears occupied on social media may in reality be empty. Patterns can be observed. Routines can be studied. For organized burglars, predictability is an opportunity. In this case, the public did not first see a headline about a television star. They saw a report about a home break-in with a high loss value. Only after did the identity connect and the story gain traction. The shift from anonymous victim to recognized figure changed how widely the incident spread, but did not change the basic truth underneath it. A private residence was entered without permission. Property was taken. Safety was breached. And to fully grasp how it happened, we now move from the person to the place. Because the setting of this crime tells its own important story. The neighborhood, the timing, and the atmosphere of that particular evening all play a role in how the burglars were able to move in and out without immediate confrontation. The next part of this story begins not with noise, but with calm. The evening did not begin with sirens, shouting, or flashing lights. It began the way many incidents do before they become headlines. Calm, ordinary, predictable. The kind of evening that settles quietly over a residential Los Angeles neighborhood, where people expect the night to pass without incident. This part of the city is known for comfort rather than chaos. Tree-lined streets, private homes set back from the road, soft exterior lighting, occasional passing cars, the low background rhythm of suburban life. In neighborhoods like this, danger rarely announces itself. It blends in, waits, observes, and moves only when the moment feels right. That night, nothing outwardly signaled that a crime was about to unfold. No broken gates, no suspicious vehicles circling repeatedly, no loud arguments or disturbances that would draw attention. The environment gave off the illusion of security, the same sense of normalcy that allows residents to relax into their routines. Lights turn on inside homes. Televisions glow behind curtains. Delivery drivers pass through. Dogs bark and then settle. Everything appears exactly as it should. One of the most important elements in residential burglary is timing. Professional or semi-organized burglars rarely choose moments of chaos. They prefer calm windows when activity is low and observation is reduced. A quiet evening offers cover. Fewer people are looking outside. Fewer unexpected witnesses are moving through the street. Sound travels differently at night, but so does attention. People hear less because they expect less. From the outside, Gina Torres' residence showed no visible distress. No forced entry could be seen from the street at first glance. No obvious sign that the home had been or was about to be targeted. That is often how these crimes succeed. The warning signs are subtle or invisible until after the fact. A shadow where no one should be. A vehicle parked a little too long. A figure moving with unusual purpose. Criminals who conduct targeted home burglaries often rely on behavioral patterns. They study when lights go off, when cars leave, when properties sit empty. They do not need advanced technology to do this. Simple observation over time can reveal enough. In affluent areas especially, routines tend to stabilize. Work hours, travel schedules, filming commitments, public appearances. Even publicly shared information can unintentionally create a timetable. The calm of that evening worked in the intruder's favor. It lowered the neighborhood's guard. It reduced the chance that someone would immediately question unfamiliar movement. When everything feels normal, suspicion sleeps. That is the paradox of quiet environments. They are peaceful, but that same peace can delay reaction. Inside the home, there was no confrontation unfolding, no defensive response being triggered. The property was not expecting a threat, and that gap between expectation and reality is where intrusion lives. Security is strongest when danger is anticipated. It weakens when danger feels unlikely. At this stage in the story, nothing has yet been discovered. No report has been filed. No police vehicle has been dispatched. The street remains still. But movement has already begun. The people responsible are closer than anyone nearby realizes. The approach has started. The decision has been made. The line between observation and action is about to be crossed. What happens next is the critical turning point, the moment when intent becomes entry and a quiet evening becomes an active crime scene. Section 4 is where the breach occurs. The calm of the night was broken by the sound of glass shattering. Two men had approached the house with a clear purpose. They moved silently along the perimeter, eyes alert, muscles tense, waiting for the right moment. Without hesitation, one of them struck the side window. The glass exploded inward, spilling tiny shards onto the floor. In a matter of seconds, both men slipped through the opening and disappeared from the outside world. Inside, the burglars wasted no time. Every movement was deliberate. Drawers were opened carefully, items were lifted quickly, nothing was left behind by accident. Jewelry was gathered first, glinting under the dim lights. Then cash was secured from where it had been stored. Their hands moved fast but precise, as if they knew exactly where everything of value was kept. There was no panic, no unnecessary noise, no fumbling. They moved together in synchrony, each watching and supporting the other. The house, once quiet and orderly, became a scene of meticulous theft. Within minutes, they had filled bags with their haul. The total value of what they took was estimated at more than $200,000. Yet in the moment, it was just another task to them, swift, calculated, and complete. When their bags were full, they retraced their steps. The window that had been broken for entry served as their exit as well. They climbed back through it, leaving behind only the chaos they had caused and the broken glass as proof of their presence. By the time anyone noticed, the burglars were gone, vanished into the darkness without a trace, leaving the house eerily still once again. This sudden, violent intrusion left an indelible mark. For Gina Torres, it was a stark reminder that even in the most secure and quiet of places, danger can appear without warning. And for those following this story, it serves as a chilling account of how a single night can change the sense of safety forever. If you want to follow every detail of this burglary and hear exactly what the burglars took, what was left behind, and how the aftermath unfolded, make sure to subscribe to Real Crime Saga. You won't want to miss the next part of this story. The moment the burglars stepped inside, the house changed. What had been a quiet, orderly home became a place of hurried movement and precision. Their steps were careful but fast. They knew exactly where they wanted to go, and they went there without pause. Each room they entered was scanned quickly, hands searching for what mattered most. There was no curiosity, no distraction, no time wasted on anything else. Drawers were opened, and jewelry was removed with methodical speed. Rings, necklaces, and watches were carefully picked from their places, collected in bags as though they had been trained to take only what held the highest value. Cash, wherever it was stored, was taken next. Bills were gathered, folded, or bundled, and placed alongside the other valuables. Every movement suggested practice, or at the very least, a clear understanding of what to do. Even though the burglars were moving quickly, there was no clumsiness. Nothing was overturned unnecessarily. Furniture remained mostly intact. Electronics and lower value items were ignored. Their focus was sharp, their priority clear. Take the items that mattered most and leave before anyone could stop them. Time inside the house was minimal. Minutes stretched long in the perspective of anyone witnessing the crime from the outside. But inside, the operation seemed to pass in an instant. They moved from room to room in a smooth, calculated rhythm. knowing the longer they stayed, the greater the risk. Each decision had a purpose. Each action moved them closer to completing their goal. The house itself, familiar and private moments ago, was now a stage for careful efficiency. It had been breached and stripped of its most valuable possessions in a matter of moments. The burglars' confidence and decisiveness made it clear they had prepared for this. This was not random. This was not haphazard. It was execution, deliberate and focused, carried out in silence with the precision of those who know exactly what they want and how to get it. As quickly as they entered, the burglars prepared to leave. The bags were full, the high-value items collected, the cash secured. Their hands moved with the same purposeful energy that had guided them through the rooms. They had taken everything they intended to take and nothing more. There was no excess, no indulgence, only efficiency and the cold detachment of people accustomed to getting in and out without leaving a trace. Once they reached the exit, the burglars retraced their steps through the broken window, leaving the house eerily silent once again. The quiet had returned, but the home was forever changed. In the span of minutes, what had been a private space filled with comfort and safety had been violated, leaving behind only the absence of what had once been there. When the burglars finally left the house, the true scale of the crime became clear. The loss was staggering, a figure that would be reported with disbelief. Roughly $225,000 in stolen property. It was not just the monetary value that shocked, but the weight of what had been taken and the violation it represented. Most of the stolen items were jewelry, carefully selected and gathered with precision. Rings, bracelets, necklaces, watches, each piece likely chosen for its value, its recognizability, or both. These were not random items pulled from drawers in haste. Each had a purpose, a reason to be taken, and each now belonged to the burglars, leaving behind only the emptiness of absence. Cash was also taken, a significant sum carefully removed from its hiding places. Bills that once rested in drawers or safes now vanished into the night, folded, bundled, and transported out of the home by the intruders. Money, unlike jewelry, carries no sentimental value, but the sudden removal still leaves a striking impact. The tangible loss becomes something that cannot simply be replaced overnight, even if the value is insured. The combination of cash and jewelry revealed the calculated nature of the crime. The burglars were selective, efficient, and aware of what they were after. They had avoided lower-value items and focused on high-yield targets. This was not a random act of theft. It was a professional approach, one that emphasized quick extraction over unnecessary risk or exposure. For the homeowner, the numbers only tell part of the story. Behind the $225,000 lies the personal violation. The knowledge that someone entered their home, sifted through their personal belongings, and left with what was most precious is a chilling reminder of vulnerability. It is one thing to hear about a burglary in the news. It is another to have it happen to you, in your own space, with no warning. Beyond the material loss, the psychological effect is immediate. The sense of safety that a home provides has been breached. The familiar layout, once comforting, now carries the memory of intrusion. Drawers once neatly arranged are empty. Cabinets once private have been opened and emptied. Even if the items themselves can be replaced or insured, the feeling of security has been taken as surely as the cash and jewelry. In the wake of the theft, investigators began to piece together the details. The burglars had executed their plans swiftly, efficiently, and without hesitation. They had taken precisely what they intended to take and left no extra trace behind, aside from the broken window and the sudden emptiness of the home. The sheer value of the loss would make headlines, but the story goes beyond dollars. It is a story of preparation, opportunity, and the fragility of security. And it is a story that would not end with the exit of the burglars. The consequences, both practical and emotional, would continue to unfold in the days and weeks that followed. For a long while after the burglars had entered and taken what they came for, the quiet of the neighborhood remained. Lights flickered behind drawn curtains, the occasional car passed by, and the night continued its ordinary rhythm. But one neighbor, alert and attentive, noticed something unusual. Shadows moved in ways that did not belong. The subtle hint of disturbance in a place that had seemed so calm caught their attention. From their vantage point, the neighbors saw two men emerge from Gina Torres' home. Both carried large bags, heavy with stolen items. The way they moved was deliberate, practiced, not fumbling or panicked, but measured, as if every action had been rehearsed. They crossed the yard with care, loaded the bags into a waiting vehicle, and prepared to leave. Each motion confirmed the worst fears. This was not a harmless intrusion or a small theft. It was a calculated, significant burglary. In that moment, the street became alive with tension. What had seemed like a quiet evening was now the scene of a real crime unfolding in real time. The neighbor did not hesitate. They acted, alerting the authorities immediately. The phone call was placed, the details relayed. A description of the suspects, the vehicle, and their direction of departure was given, providing the first lead that law enforcement would have. This witness moment became the turning point in the story. Up until then, the burglary had been silent, invisible, and complete from the intruder's perspective. Once noticed, however, the crime became part of the public record. The simple act of observation triggered the wheels of response, an alert to police, documentation of the incident, and the first concrete step toward justice. The intruders, meanwhile, were unaware they had been spotted. Their careful, rapid exit had seemed perfect in its execution. Yet the vigilance of a single neighbor had changed the trajectory of the event. From a complete disappearance into the night, there was now a record, a chance that evidence could be followed, suspects could be identified, and items might eventually be recovered. Even as the burglars drove away, the tension lingered. The quiet of the neighborhood was fractured. Those who witnessed the crime knew that the calm had been an illusion. For the homeowner, the sense of security, already violated inside, was now confirmed to be under threat outside. The stolen valuables were gone, but the intrusion into personal space had been witnessed, and the first steps of investigation were set in motion. It was a reminder that even in moments of control and planning, an unexpected observer can shift the balance. That neighbor's attention would provide law enforcement with a critical starting point, one that could eventually lead to answers, arrests, and accountability. This moment also marked a turning point in how the story would unfold, from a crime committed in silence to one with witnesses, evidence, and human connection to the event. The burglars had acted with precision, but reality had intervened, and the night was far from over. The burglars moved with the same deliberate precision they had maintained throughout the night. With the stolen valuables secured in bags, they made their way to a waiting vehicle park just beyond the property line. Every movement was controlled, efficient, as if rehearsed countless times. There was no panic, no hesitation, only a calculated focus on leaving the scene before the world could catch up with them. As they loaded the bags into the car, the stillness of the quiet neighborhood contrasted sharply with the tension of their actions. Their hands moved quickly, but carefully, ensuring nothing fell, nothing rattled, nothing drew unwanted attention. Each second counted. They knew that the moment stretched longer than it seemed, and that any misstep could bring witnesses closer or alert the authorities faster than they anticipated. With their loot secured, the burglars climbed into the car and started the engine. The vehicle rolled quietly down the street, slipping into the darkness like shadows blending into the night. The broken window, the open door, and the now empty spaces inside the home were the only evidence of their presence. In that moment, the house that had once been a private sanctuary stood silent and violated, holding only the memory of what had been taken. By the time police arrived on the scene, responding to the neighbor's urgent call, the burglars were long gone. The getaway had been executed with precision. There were no pursuits, no witnesses confronting them on the street, no immediate signs that could give away their direction. The street had returned to a deceptive calm, as if nothing had happened, leaving authorities to piece together the crime after the fact. The escape was clean. The planning that had guided their break-in extended seamlessly to their exit. No lingering traces, no carelessness. Every detail, from entry to exit, had been executed with a focus on speed, discretion, and efficiency. The intruders vanished into the city, leaving behind questions, shock, and the beginning of an investigation that would stretch long after the night had passed. For the homeowner, the exit of the burglars marked the end of immediate danger, but the violation lingered. The house had been entered, the valuables taken, and the silence of the neighborhood had been shattered. What remained was a mixture of relief that no one had been harmed, and the unsettling realization that the crime had occurred in their absence, with the perpetrators now free to disappear into the city's expanse. Even in the aftermath, the memory of their movements, deliberate, rapid, and unseen, would remain. Every step they took, every bag they carried, every shadow slipping into the darkness became a part of the story of that night, a story that would be told in reports, news coverage, and now, through the recounting of this crime. The next stage of the story reveals the personal and emotional impact of the theft, the aftermath left behind, and the broader context of how a crime of this scale affects a household. While the burglars moved swiftly through her home and vanished into the night, Gina Torres was not there to witness it. She was away, attending to her personal schedule, living a life that, for all its public attention, included moments of normalcy away from the cameras. At the time of the break-in, her house, usually a place of comfort and familiarity, stood empty. The absence of the homeowner prevented what could have been a far more dangerous situation. No confrontation occurred. No alarms triggered panic. No physical injuries were reported. The burglars' focus remained strictly on property, and their clean getaway meant that the house, though violated, had not become the scene of a violent encounter. In that sense, the night ended without immediate human harm, but the impact was nonetheless profound. Even without physical danger, the emotional weight of a crime like this is heavy. Homes are spaces that carry memory, security, and identity. They are where people retreat from the world, where routines are established, and where comfort is expected. To have that space entered without permission is jarring. It is a reminder that safety, even behind locked doors and in peaceful neighborhoods, is fragile. For Torres, the knowledge that intruders had rifled through personal belongings, selected items of value, and left with them is unsettling. Jewelry and cash were gone. Yes, but so too was the sense of inviolability that a home should provide. Even though she was physically safe, the psychological impact of knowing someone had entered her private life uninvited cannot be underestimated. It creates a lasting awareness that normal routines can be observed, opportunities exploited, and that even well-planned schedules are vulnerable to disruption. The timing of the burglary highlights a critical aspect of such crimes. The offenders had likely known, or at least assumed, that the house would be empty at that moment. Their planning allowed them to strike when no one could interfere. From the outside, the night appeared calm. From the inside, the house had been breached, and the homeowner would only learn of it after the fact, through reports, evidence, and the damage left behind. In the end, while Gina Torres was unharmed and no physical danger occurred, the crime left an indelible mark on her sense of security. The intrusion transformed a safe space into a reminder of vulnerability, and the stolen items became symbols of the sudden fragility of home. What remained was not only the aftermath of theft, but the personal reckoning with the knowledge that even the most controlled lives, and even those of public figures, are not immune to crime. As soon as the neighbors' alert reached law enforcement, officers arrived at the scene. The quiet of the neighborhood had been restored, but the evidence of intrusion was unmistakable. Shattered glass on the floor, empty drawers, and missing valuables told the story immediately. For the responding officers, the first task was to secure the scene, ensuring that nothing else could be disturbed before a thorough investigation began. The house, once peaceful and orderly, was now a documented crime scene. Investigators carefully moved through each room, noting every detail. Broken windows were photographed, entry points measured, and the layout of the house observed to understand how the burglars had moved. Every mark left behind, every displaced item, could provide clues. Fingerprints, footprints, and other traces of human presence were collected for analysis. Police also began documenting the stolen property. Jewelry, cash, and other high-value items were logged, with approximate values estimated to provide a full account of the loss. The thoroughness of this process was critical, not only for investigative purposes, but also for insurance documentation and future recovery efforts. Each detail helped paint a picture of the burglary, who had done it, how they did it, and what they had taken. Witness statements became a central part of the investigation. The neighbor who had seen the suspects leaving with bags and entering a vehicle provided critical information. Descriptions of the suspects, the type of car used for the getaway, and the direction of their escape were all recorded. These accounts offered law enforcement a starting point, a thread to follow in hopes of locating those responsible. Despite the meticulous work of investigators, at the time of reporting, no arrests had been made. The burglars had executed their plan with speed and precision, leaving behind limited evidence. The clean exit and the careful avoidance of confrontation meant that authorities were working with little more than witness statements and physical traces inside the home. Even without immediate arrests, the investigation marked the first step toward accountability. Police presence in the area increased, canvassing for additional witnesses, checking surveillance footage from neighboring properties, and seeking any further leads. The case, though unresolved at that point, was now fully active, and the hope was that the combination of forensic evidence and eyewitness testimony would eventually identify the perpetrators. For Gina Torres, the police response offered a measure of reassurance. Her home had been violated, her valuables taken, but the law had moved quickly to assess, document, and respond. The process of investigation, even in its early stages, was an essential step in recovering what was lost and preventing similar crimes in the future. The burglary at Gina Torres' home, shocking as it was, did not happen in isolation. Across Los Angeles, high-value residences have increasingly become targets for organized burglary crews, criminals who study routines, observe schedules, and strike when homes are empty. The city, with its concentration of wealth and celebrity homes, presents opportunities that some criminals are all too willing to exploit. These are not random acts of crime. Many of the incidents follow a familiar pattern. Intruders identify a target, monitor it for days or even weeks, noting when occupants leave for work, social engagements, or travel. They observe the timing of lights, the comings and goings of staff or neighbors, and even social media posts that may unintentionally reveal absence. This meticulous planning allows them to act with precision, reducing the risk of confrontation and increasing the likelihood of a successful haul. In many cases, these crews operate in pairs or small teams, moving quickly and efficiently. They know how to avoid detection, how to minimize noise, and how to extract the highest value items while spending the least amount of time inside a property. Jewelry and cash are prime targets because they are portable, easy to conceal, and often not traceable once removed. The burglars at Torres' home fit this pattern perfectly: fast, targeted, and deliberate. The phenomenon highlights a larger issue for residents of affluent areas. Even in neighborhoods that are typically peaceful, where security measures are assumed to be sufficient, the combination of planning, observation, and opportunism can overwhelm protections. The risk is not necessarily from force or confrontation, but from calculated efficiency. One window left unsecured, one predictable absence, one routine repeated too consistently can be enough for criminals to act. For homeowners, the emotional impact of these incidents is as significant as the financial loss. Beyond the stolen property, there's the knowledge that strangers have been inside the private spaces of their lives, examining personal belongings and taking what they value most. It is a violation of trust and safety, a reminder that wealth and visibility can draw unwanted attention. In the case of Gina Torres, the burglary serves as a stark example of this wider trend. The methodical nature of the crime, the careful targeting of valuables, and the clean escape all reflect the techniques used by organized burglary crews operating in Los Angeles. Her experience is a window into the challenges faced by homeowners across the city, where even the most seemingly secure properties can be vulnerable if criminals have studied them closely. Understanding this broader context does not lessen the impact of the crime, but provides insight into why such incidents occur and why they are increasingly common in areas where visibility, wealth, and routine intersect. The burglary at Gina Torres' home serves as a stark reminder that fame, visibility, or wealth does not guarantee safety. Behind the gates, behind security systems, behind closed doors and cameras, the same risks exist that anyone in a city like Los Angeles might face. Homes can be observed, routines can be noted, and even the most careful planning by homeowners cannot completely eliminate the possibility of intrusion. In this case, the suspects executed their plan with precision. They struck swiftly, targeted high-value items, and left without confrontation. By the time authorities were alerted, they had disappeared into the sprawling city night. The shattered window and the missing valuables were the only evidence of their presence, and the sense of security that once existed inside that home was irrevocably altered. The crime also highlights the emotional weight of burglary. Material losses, though significant, often pale in comparison to the psychological impact. The knowledge that someone has entered private spaces, handled personal belongings, and removed what is most treasured leaves a lasting impression. Even when no one is physically harmed, the feeling of vulnerability remains. For Gina Torres, a figure known for her strength and command on screen, the experience is a reminder that real life does not always follow the patterns of scripted narratives. The violation of her home is a human story, one that resonates because it could happen to anyone, regardless of fame or status. The burglars may have vanished, but the aftermath lingers. The disrupted sense of safety, the legal proceedings, the investigation, and the personal reflection that comes with such an intrusion. And this story, while shocking in its specifics, also fits into a larger pattern of crime in cities where wealth is visible and opportunity is observed. It is a reminder that security is a constant effort, that vigilance is necessary, and that even the most carefully protected homes can become targets if the wrong people are watching at the right moment. The investigation continues, and the hope is that the burglars will eventually be identified and held accountable. In the meantime, the story stands as both a cautionary tale and a real-life example of how quickly normal life can be disrupted by crime. If you found this story compelling and want to stay updated on true crime stories like this one, told with detail, clarity, and respect for the facts, make sure to subscribe to Real Crime Saga, hit the notification bell, and join us for the next case. Because behind every headline, there is a story waiting to be told, and every detail matters.